Hi everyone, travel addict guy here, and I'm with some friends and we're going up to the castle here, guys, in Alicante. And check this out, they've got some tapas bars right here on the way. And we're going up to the top of the castle. So look at this neighborhood, guys, check it out. Wow, so cool, and hard work going up here, but it's all worth it when you get to the top and see the views. Wow, check this out, guys. You can see the sea already. Imagine what it would be like to live here. Take a look at that. Wow. And there's a house up there too.
I think so. There's some like waterfall kind of thing.
So these are my friends that I'm walking with.
Hi.
They're both from England. You want to say your names for the camera?
I'm Arabi.
I'm Kieran.
Okay. Wow, look at the views, guys. They're getting to be amazing as you go up here. Unbelievable, guys. Take a look there. And look at this, guys. Take a look there. Ah, there might be a restaurant there. So this is a restaurant actually, guys. It's called La Erita. Look at that. Wow, amazing restaurant here. And there looks like a walkway there. So I guess you can cross there along the wall. Oh, and there's another way to come too. People coming from another direction. So getting closer to the summit, here it is. Not too far away now. And better views yet of Alicante. So we have a nice lookout here. Wow, that looks great, guys. And you can see the path that we came up. Started all the way down over there, across through this park and around and up. Some more nice views here of the castle, and there looks like the start of it, so very close to the entrance. So I'm on some kind of path now. That's where these the British girl took me, guys. Wow. So a weird path here. So I find myself on this little path here. It looks kind of dodgy, guys. Look at that. It's just this tiny path. I'm not sure if they went the right way or not. But that's the way she went. Ah, it looks like you go down. Maybe that's the entrance there. So that's where I came from there. There was a path actually. You saw I took that path coming down. And there's actually a road going up too, guys. Another road actually as well. So here it is. Finally made it. Wow, that was a lot of work, guys. I will not lie. Santa Barbara. Wow, there's a Santa Barbara in California. And look at that, guys. You can see I'm quite sweaty. Woo! Trying to keep up with those young kids was a job. They're moving pretty good. So a bit windy up here. Can already see some nice views there. Wow, take a look. This is the Castel de Santa Barbara. Should be Castillo. Why they put Castel, I don't know. Maybe that is a different language for sure. Castle. Or there it is. Ah, this might be that Català, like in Barcelona. So am I in Catalonia now? It looks like that Catalunya, Catalan. So there's the Castel. And there it is, Ayuntament de Alicante. Ah, so it's free entry. So that's nice.
So the first image, it's the depiction of a castle during the 16th century, in the late 16th century. But we have to go, you know, to the 9th century to understand the first castle that was located in here. You know, if you made a tour with us in the old town, if not, I will tell you, Alicante, in its actual location, is a Muslim foundation. You know, the Muslims that appeared in Spain in the 8th century and they stayed for 8 centuries more. Well, in the 9th century, the Muslims were the ones who moved the ancient city of Lucentum, the Roman city, that is located something like 4 or 5 kilometers from where we are, next to the Cape of Las Huertas in Albufereta. And they built an Alcazaba. This is the Spanish word for a Muslim castle. A castle that was on the top, right on the top of the last body, where is nowadays the macho located. It was a castle made mostly with rammed earth. First construction of the first bastions. Do you know what's a bastion? This is a bastion. It's the modern way of, the modern tower. As you know, black powder has been developed, so no really high towers anymore, just really thick, wide walls. Spanish soldiers arrived to Alicante, commanded by the Chevalier d'Asfel, the Knight Asfel. The city quite easily surrendered, but they could not conquer the castle, as more than 1,000 men were resisting a siege that was quite long. So, well, to surrender the castle, and as with the mortars or with the cannons, they could not damage, really, in reality, the castle, the Chevalier d'Asfel, the French commander, decided to dig a tunnel, a mine, under the mountain. And he filled the tunnel with more than 10 tons of explosives. The 28th of February, he had the mine ready, and he invited the British Lord, you know, British commander, who was being sieged in the castle, and known as Sir John Richard Sigurd. And the Chevalier d'Asfel showed him the mine and told him, if in 24 hours you do not surrender, we will blow up the mountain with you. The British Lord is a lord with a lot of honor, and he decided not to surrender. Well, the texts tell us that this same day, the Alicantinian soldiers, next to the British soldiers, they appeared on the walls to be, you know, to be looked at, getting drunk, drinking wine, celebrating, you know, the inauguration of the French mine. But although they were doing this for weeks, non-stop, really hard, lots of soldiers were digging a countermine, a well that goes deep up to more than 28 meters deep, trying to reach the French mine to blow the French mine on the first, before they did it, but they totally failed. We're going to see the well that is located in this same place and goes to no point everywhere. Well, it goes to nowhere. So early in the morning of the next day, 3:30 on the morning of the day 29th of February, they blew up the mountain. Did you know this? Some of you, yes, you did it.
No.
But it's a really huge explosion that happened here. And well, it's not that a really good depiction of a castle on that day, because nowadays we know that almost a third of the ancient medieval Gothic castle fell from the mountains, and up to more than 200 men perished from the explosion, including the British Lord. But 600 men could resist up to April, the siege, when they finally surrendered and they were allowed to abandon the castle with honors, martyred, for how hard they fight defending the castle. Well, the brutal explosion left us a really big crack in the mountain. We have a valley that you can see from the Postigeta, from the old town, next to the face of the Moorish king. You know, this really big face we have in the mountain. And well, this is the main reason why we don't have a medieval castle anymore. Because then after, with the Bourbons, they destroyed the remains from the old castle, and they made the castle as we know it nowadays. So a really huge fortress with just platforms and bastions to fight with cannons in all directions. This is the barrack for the architects and engineers, their hotel, where they used to stay here for something less than 20 years, enlarging and improving, making all the reforms from the castle. So they destroyed the top of the remains from the medieval castle to build this huge platform known as El Macho, with this courtyard, the original courtyard from the medieval times. And this is the last line, the last wall, with the two last medieval towers that we have left from the medieval times. Well, and then they created this barrack dedicated to the King Felipe II, where we are now. And look how many levels do we have. So we came from the road, and then we have to cross one gate, then with a small bridge to that bastion. This is the first bastion, known as the Bastion of Bon Repos. in Valencian language. That means translated will be something like good chilling, because it was the place chosen by the burgess people in the beginning of the 20th century to come to have picnics and enjoy the views. Then we have another bridge, and we came into the first body. Well, we have two bastions, the bastion of the king and the bastion of the queen. And well, we come to this boarding post where you had to do the booking, the check-in with the bell gate, and this is the second level with the ruins that we're going to see, where the last church dedicated to Santa Barbara was located. But the church exploded by accident, and then it was decided not to build any other church. 7 of November of 1937. So those two brothers were prisoners in the hands of the Spanish Republic, you know, accused of being spies from the right parties, of being fascists, or you know, of being burgess. Well, they ended in the castle.
He was saying that this castle was abandoned in the early 1900s, but during the Spanish Civil War, they took it back over, the militaries, and they used this as a prison, guys. So it was actually a prison during the Spanish Civil War. And that inscription he was just showing there, I was just showing on the floor, that is an inscription of some of the prisoners that were here during the time of the Spanish Civil War.
The Spanish crown. And in the same year, in 1492, they discovered America. They conquered the last Muslim kingdom, Granada, Reino Nazarí de Granada, and also they deported all Jewish people from Sepharad, all Ladine people. Okay, the years passed, and in 1609, in that year, is where the Spanish crown decided to deport all Moriscos. Who were the Moriscos? Were those Muslims that still live in Spain that were forced to become Christians earlier, but those that didn't convert it on time, or those that were, you know, appointed as Moriscos, were finally deported because there was an economical crisis from the lords, and they took all their properties to sell them to all the Spanish. So, well, we don't have Jewish, they didn't have Muslims. But then years passed, and in the year 1749, there was another culture, another people that the royalty of Spain wanted to exterminate or to deport. I'm talking about the gypsies. And what happens here? You know, gypsies are still in Spain, and they became the best ambassadors of our culture with flamenco and so on. So the thing is that they failed. And this plate commemorates, you know, it says, 261 men suffered captivity in the castle of Santa Barbara during the Great Raid, the first recorded attempt in history to make a gypsy genocide. This happened the night of the 29th up to the 30th of July in the year 1749, and it was orchestrated by the Marquis of Ensenada, who was our government secretary, and the Bishop of Oviedo, president of the Council of Castilla, both with the approval of the King Ferdinand VI.
Very interesting history here, guys. He said that they actually tried to kill off the gypsies at one time. Finally, they stopped. And he said that the reason that most gypsies live in the same neighborhood is not because they wanted to, it's because they put them in ghettos. And that's what they did to get them out of the public view, basically. So that is why you have large gypsy neighborhoods in Spain.
Is the Marxist for this. And also, as they stopped to get to Madrid, and they returned back to Toledo, and Madrid gained some time to improve the defenses, because in Toledo, in the castle of Toledo, a few young sub-officials were resisting a siege, really brave. They decided to conquer Alicante as the last place, not for strategic motives, because of symbolism. Because in the beginning of the war, and the rebellion from the fascists, in Alicante, the founder of the fascist party, Falange de las Hons, was Antonio Primo de Rivera, was detained, was put on a trial, on a court, accused of rebellion, treason, and was finally sentenced to death and executed. So then after, his figure, his image of José Antonio was taken as a martyr for the fascist movement, so that's why they decided to conquer Alicante as the last place. Then after, the fascists came here, and they took the body of José Antonio from the mass grave, and on parade, on their shoulders, they took the body to where it is lying. Now it is resting in the Valley of the Fallen, El Valle de los Caídos, where 2 years ago Franco was in there, but finally we took him off. As you know, we still don't have any museum, national museum of the episodes and Franco died on the bed in 1975 with a law. Democracy came with a law that was to forget and to forgive, but does not work anymore. It went to be a European country, and knowing or considering the Spanish Civil War as the first battle of the Second World War, because we have all sides: Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, Soviet Russia, fighting and testing what we were going to do in the same year, 1959 up to 1945. So let's go.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Franco's body, where is it now?
Now it's in a civil cemetery because the body was taken from the Valley of the Fallen. It was given to the family, to the descendants, and it's lying next to his wife, another divorce. So it's in Madrid, in a public cemetery. But because the monument, the tomb, the Valley of the Fallen, it's a place still used nowadays by the Falangist, neo-fascists or original fascists to go on parade. They used to do masses. In Spain, the original fascist party, Falange, is still legal, okay, and they go on elections. And luckily they don't get too many votes. But here you can raise your arm and do the Roman salute, and there's no punishment as in Germany or in other countries. So still Spain is full of mass graves all around. So it's now when we're beginning to dig them, to make numbers, and this is still, you know, we're divided, and there's an opposition. As a lot of fortunes formed by stealing, by the genocide. We don't really have the numbers, you know, the casualties and the repression. And also this Franco's repression is really hard to study, because although the Germans, the Nazi Germany did, with a lot of bureaucracy, Franco did not develop that kind of bureaucracy. So lots of prisoners only have their testimony of being prisoner, but no papers that show that they have been in jail. You know, the day we will finally make the numbers, we will no longer talk about the Spanish Civil War, because it was not civil, not national, international, and we will begin to talk about the Spanish genocide. This is what truly happened. You know, there was a concentration camp, the first one in Alicante. It was the Almond Field, that it was located next to the this is another one, next to the shopping mall that we have in here. It's Plaza Mar, the shopping mall. Behind it is where the Almond Field, you know, the first concentration camp, was located with thousands of prisoners. But from there they were taken mostly to the biggest one in the province and in Spain, in Albatera, 60 kilometers from where we are. It's the second archaeological campaign that began this year to know the field and to find the mass grave. But we have some aerial views. You know, you can know, you know, repression in Alicante was pretty brutal, one of the most brutal ones that it happened then after. Franco had battalions of slaves up till the end of the 50s, you know, and well, luckily nowadays we made the democratic laws of memory, and we're beginning to take off all monuments, plates with names of genocides and murders, but still with a lot of opposition with it. So the other right-wing parties menace that if they win, you know, in elections, they will ban those laws, or you know, this is what happens.
So some more inscriptions from a prisoner. It says Prisionero Rojo, which means red prisoner. And there's the date 1939.
By two capes, the Cape of Santa Pola in the south, the Cape of Las Huertas to the north. Behind this mountain, that is the mountain of San Julian, and a few kilometers in almost the corner in between the mountain and the cape is where you can find Albufereta. It's where there's the ancient Roman city, Lucentum, that you can discover the ruins, but walk through the streets of the Roman city, but surrounded by the brutalist buildings that we began to build in the 60s. Well, this is the location of the old neighborhood known as Raval Roig, the Red Raval. Raval or Arrabal is a Spanish word in Castilian that refers to the neighborhoods outside the city walls, or the neighborhoods where all the Jewish and Muslims after the conquest were forced to live. You know, so that's why we have lots of Ravals in all the cities in Spain. So this is the Raval Roig, that was mostly the neighborhood of the fishermen, no more fishermen anymore in Alicante, and also the neighborhood of the traffickers. Because when they made those buildings, they began to discover hundreds and dozens of tunnels, you know, where they used to take all goods illegally inside the city. Well, the mountain of San Julian, you see that this is a cantier that it has been used to take all stone for making the city nowadays. It's almost half of it voided with a really big gas oil deposits not in use anymore, and we're expecting or waiting for a really big project to have a concert hall, something inside the mountain. And well, this is the biggest problem that the castle had during the modern history, the mountain, as you will see later, with hundreds of impacts that you can find on the walls. Because when they built the castle in the medieval times, having a mountain next to it was no problem. But then after, with the development of the black powder and cannons, it became the worst problem of the city. In every war that we suffer in Alicante, the first battles have been fought in this mountain, as all the Alicantinians wanted to prevent the enemies to installing there the artillery that finally it was accomplished by the Bourbons during the siege of the castle in 1709. So let's go to keep on climbing the castle, because we have a lot of things to see.
That's the mountain he's talking about, guys. And a beautiful view here. Wow. So, in a very intense presentation, and this man is very knowledgeable, this Spanish guy, and he's very passionate. I like his delivery. Even though his English is not perfect, guys, he's very passionate about his delivery, and I learned a lot of things about Spain that I did not know.
The church, as you can see. You know, in the Iberian Peninsula, we are two countries, two states, Spain and Portugal. So how is it possible that Portugal is not Spanish? We, the Valencians, are Spanish, the Catalans are Spanish, the Basques are Spanish, because they fought a lot, you know, in the medieval times, but also because Portugal is the oldest ally of England, with a pact from the 14th century that is still running. You know, so being the Bourbons in Castilla, also French, and being France enemy of England, Napoleon asked the Spanish royalty if he could cross Spain with his army to conquer Portugal. And they allowed him into entering into Spain in diagonal with his army. But then after, when he was here, he asked the royal family of Spain if they could visit him in Bayonne, southern France, to discuss some things about the military campaign. And all the royal family went there. In France, Napoleon convinced the kings of Spain to give him the throne and the crown. And they did it. And Napoleon took the crown of Spain, and he put the crown over the head of his brother, José Bonaparte, known in Spain and remembered in Spain as Pepe Botella, you know, bottle. Because it's, when this happened, popular uprising, rebellion started in all the country, because mostly all the Spanish, being farmers, illiterates and Catholics, did not understand what was happening. They used to say that the royal family was kidnapped in France, and by those demons, anti-clerical, you know, and Republicans. So with the war cry of long live the Catholic Church, long live the king, in guerrillas, the people began to fight the French. Then after the revolution and the war was taken the control by the Spanish liberals, that gave us the first constitution of the country, La Pepa, Constitution of Cádiz, on the year 1812. After the war, you know, the liberals could fight back, the French abandoned finally the country, and Spain was liberated. So the king was back as he was, the head of the constitutions made by the liberals. Ferdinand VII came to Spain, and instead of accepting the constitution that made by those that gave and returned him the throne, he banned the constitution and began to persecute and to in jail all those liberals that liberated Spain. Absolutism was back. So if 300 years ago the Spanish War of Succession is the beginning of independentism, of Catalonia and so on, this episode is the beginning of Spanish republicanism, as the liberals, some of them, saw the Bourbons as traitors to the nation. So we still are divided, as you know, in between royalty and republicanism. So on the year 1812, in Alicante, what it happened is that it was really a bad year, because Valencia fell in the hands of the French, and also Sagunto, a military village, and the French army was coming to siege and conquer Alicante. So the siege camp formed by the French was installed in the mountain Tosal, where we have another castle, Castle of Ferdinand, but it was not well built during that time. And a fight began, a battle, where nowadays we have the Church of Santa Cruz. There was a bastion, it's a corner. So with a lucky shot made by Vicente Torregrosa, the engineer who aimed the cannons, a few shots hit the weapons deposit from the French army and the siege camp. There was a really huge explosion, so the French were forced to abandon, to flee direction north. So they they run away, but not running away. They decided to go to the countryside to exterminate and execute a lot of people in the countryside of Alicante. So Alicante gained some time to improve the defenses. And it's in here when Antonio de la Cruz, military major of the city, he ordered that in the castle, the soldiers must make and fabricate as many bombs, hand grenades, explosives as possible. Where did they store them? In the church. And next to the church, where we now have this small gate, here there was another building that disappeared with the explosion. That was a kitchen. So it seems that a spark from the chimney, we don't know what really happened, but suddenly the church exploded. All the church exploded. Half of the barrack fell off and more than 50 men perished. There's also a legend that explains us that the day of the explosion was the anniversary of the wedding of Antonio de la Cruz and his wife. You know, it was the anniversary. And where was his wife praying the Rosario? In the church. So she perished also. Then after, it was decided not to build a church to Santa Barbara anymore. So we had her there, okay? But it's also another, not funny, but a coincidence. Because you know that every saint has different powers and needs to be patron of jobs or works or some things. Santa Barbara used to be the patron of the miners, and also she's the patron of the weapons deposit. And the chamber in a worship, a Spanish worship from the 19th century, on our galleon from the empire, where they keep all weapons and black powder, is known as Santa Barbara. So she uses to explode, okay?
Dangerous. Dangerous woman. This is the entrance to the upper part of the castle, and he said there would have been guards stationed here, and they would have had bayonets, and they actually used these bayonets to sharpen. They used the stones here to sharpen the bayonets, guys, and you can see the marks they left. Wow. And this is sandstone, so good for sharpening things. Wow, this place is vast. It is vast. Look at that. And I believe he said there was 2 gates, and this was the second gate. He called it the Gothic gate, I believe, and there was actually a Moorish gate, the original gate. So this was the second gate. So this was the original Moorish castle.
Yes.
And it was built right up there.
Yes, in the top of the mountain.
Okay, and that's the one that was destroyed.
Yes, half of it, all third of the castle fell on that part.
And that was during the
1709. 1709, in that moment, when they blew up the mountain.
Wow.
Thousands, hundreds of thousands of donkeys in all Spain and were public workers for the city council, because it's not the same, you know, to steal my own donkey that the one that belongs to the city council. And Manolo was the last donkey that had spent all his life living in this small cave, and we have to thank him because was the last donkey that worked a lot in the castle, bringing bricks, rocks and water to the workers that were, you know, restoring the castle in the 60s to have this castle, touristic castle as we have it nowadays. So in 2014, it was decided to make an homage to his memory, you know, making this museography with the cardboard Manolo.
So we're on the highest point now, guys. Look at this. And of course the rain has to come. Whole stadium there, guys. The Corrida de Toros. Wow, you get such an amazing view from up here. Look at it. So I met a couple people on the tour, and a man and his wife. And your name again was?
My name is Hugo.
Hugo. And
Victoria.
okay, and they're from Florida. Originally from Colombia and moved to Florida.
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Thank you.
And so on, thank you for choosing me, and enjoy Alicante. Hope to see you next time.
I'm with the tour guide, Guillermo. Man, he was just a great guy. I love his passion. I love your passion, man. It was so awesome. The tour, I really enjoyed it, man. And can you tell me a little bit more about yourself? Did you grow up here in Alicante?
Yes, well, I'm from Elche, 20 kilometers from where we are. Where we have the most are palm trees, up to more than 340,000.
Okay.
And I study history, and I really love to tell those stories. So I hope that you come to Alicante to visit us and choose us to have a free tour all around the castle.
Okay,
and also
awesome.
the city.
And what is the name of your tour company? If someone wants
It's
to
free
take it?
walking tours, alicante.com.
Okay, guys, so we'll see you in the next video. Travel Addict, Guy, and Guillermo.
Bye. See you.
Take care, everyone.